been a revolution in food during the past 20 years, in where we buy it. There are specialty grocery stores, cheese shops, pastry shops. Even supermarkets now have fancy food sections.
And how we prepare it. There are more and more cookbooks, food magazines, and television cooking shows.
Even what we eat is different. There's a dazzling variety, from health food to ethnic food, available at home or in restaurants. More than ever, people seem to care about what they eat.
We're going to meet some of the people that helped bring that revolution about. Hello, I'm Michael James.
And I'm Billy Cross. We'd like you to come meet with us some of the world's greatest cooks.
Billy and I have spent more than a decade exploring many different cultures, and especially their food, always one of the most important and rewarding expressions of a culture.
We're lucky to have done this during one of the most exciting periods of culinary history. Interest in good food has blossomed. Sure, millions of people still resort to convenience food. That became popular, of course, after World War II. But more and more people are relearning the ways of their grandparents, using fresh, nourishing foods and taking the time to prepare them well.
People no longer accept the just add hot water and serve way of life. Instead, food again is becoming a way we can express care and respect for ourselves, our friends and families.
We're going to introduce you to 5 of the people who have helped to bring about this revolution in the way we cook and eat. They are all engaging, warm people with a boundless zest for life. Their innovative personalities contribute to their cooking, and through their books and teaching, to the way we eat.
As a chef, I think one of the most important things the people we're going to meet have taught us is that cooking well doesn't mean cooking fancy. Cooking is a craft, an age-old craft that anyone can learn, and it can be applied to the simplest omelet as well as to the most intricate of dishes. The people you're going to meet have, in a very real way, made good cooking available to all of us. And no one has contributed more to that development in cooking than America's own Julia Child.
Yes, sometimes I think there are 2 major periods in 20th century cooking, before Julia Child and after Julia Child. Her distinctive voice and enthusiastic approach to food made Julia a household name after her program, The French Chef, began appearing on television in 1962.
30 years into her career, Julia continues to teach, write, and demonstrate. Her primary interest is no longer just French food. Julia now promotes good food, no matter what the origin.
Julia Child's love affair with food really began in 1949 at the Cordon Bleu Cooking School in Paris. Then Julia, in collaboration with Simone Beck, spent 10 years writing the first volume of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Volume 2 took another 9 years to write. Together, the 2 books have become the Bible of French cooking in much of the world.
The major achievement of the volumes of Mastering the Art of French Cooking was to take something that seemed cloaked in mystery, French cooking, and make it accessible to every home cook and food lover. Later on television, Julia Child's natural style and unedited gaffes made it clear that fine cooking is a very human craft that many of us are capable of. But the key, I think, to the success of Mastering the Art of French Cooking was the critical chemistry between Julia Child and Simone Beck.
Yes, Julia Child's approach to food at the time was methodical and scientific. Simone Beck, a native of France, was instinctive and spontaneous. Together they were able to produce recipes that were inspired and very workable. Simone Beck, usually known by her nickname Simca, has written other cookbooks that are known around the world, including new menus from Simca's cuisine, written in collaboration with Michael James.
Simca is a legendary cook, and a tireless one, although she's several decades older than I.
I remember working with a chef, he said to me, "We have worked for 2 hours, madame, and the people will eat in 10 minutes.
At times, she's very serious.
Everybody should have this skill made, you see. Because when you make a soup, you don't have that, you have still the strings of all the vegetables, you see, even if it is hard. It's always smoother, you see, when it's done in.
At other times, she's fun. Simca was just saying that Provence is inundated with ants, and I was saying it.
But everywhere, you see, outside in the house, in my bedroom, in my sheet, everywhere. So they have a nice friend who sent me so many good things from the United States. I'm putting that everywhere, you see.
It was Americans that first brought ants to Provence, to the
Des
south of
petites
France.
attrapes-fourmis qui marchent très bien. Ah oui.
Working with her is always, in one way or another, absolutely rewarding.
Would you like to see? Would you like to taste?
Leave us a few drops at the bottom, folks.
We recently visited Simke at her home in the south of France. It sits among hillsides covered with olive trees and vineyards. She lives with her husband, Jean Fiche-Bacher, in a 300-year-old farmhouse. Simke's lifelong love of French food inspired much of mastering the art of French cooking. Simke, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, Volume 1 and 2 has sold how many volumes, would you guess?
Difficult to say, you see. 2 million to between 2 and 3, I don't know. But I know it's over 2 million. The first time I was thinking of doing something in the United States, it was before I met Julia. 1948. Just after the war, I made a manuscript of about 2,000 recipes. In 1950, I met Julia Child. At that time, 1950 in France, there was nothing to eat. Julia, with her husband, who was in the embassy, they had the PX. And we were buying the flour, the chocolate, the butter, the cream, which was awful. They don't know how many pounds of flour we're using, you see, every day to make bread. It was failing. Finally, we arrived, of course, and we arrived to make good pastry. But it took 10 years.
Despite difficulties, Simke's determination has never wavered.
There's a word in French, sans foi remettez-vous à l'ouvrage. You must never think that something it will not succeed. Always try again until you arrive at a good result. Never give up.
Simke, tell me something. Your parents had a villa in Cannes, about 20 minutes from where your home is today.
Well, I drive fast, and I say 20 minutes. But Julia Child will say 30 minutes.
Julia Child would say 30, well. When did you first come to the south of France?
In 1920. Father and mother had a house in Normandy, which is very cold. And they decided to spend January to April here, spending Christmas with the children, and leaving after Christmas for the south. And at that time, it took 2 days, and we were always stopping in Saulieu. Saulieu is on the main road, about 100 kilometers from Lyon. So we came from Dieppe to Saulieu. And at that time, well, we were beginning to meet the chef who was trying to make good food. And this food was really something very interesting.
It was here at Saulieu that Simke was exposed to a kind of cooking that eventually found its way into her books.
This whole area of France has changed very much, hasn't it?
Terribly. It was really a country very, very peaceful. And in the summertime, it was closed. Nobody was coming in Cannes in the summertime.
Because it was too hot.
Extremely hot.
Maybe we can compensate for bringing ants to the south of France by also bringing macadamias.
That's something else.
Simke has sprouting in her greenhouse, I think probably the very first macadamia nut tree in France. We feel sure that someday that the macadamias will be keeping company with all the olive trees someday. But what do you want over your grave, Simke?
Oh, macadamia.
Macadamia. That's all right. An intriguing feature of the current food interest is the greater attention paid to fruit and vegetables. Mexican cooking often treats fruit and vegetables as one of the most delicious portions of the meal. This is the kind of food you find in Mexican homes. If you're not familiar with this style of cooking, you will be in coming years.
Juan Diego Michel teaches home-style Mexican cooking throughout the world and is partly responsible for its growing popularity. He began cooking while a student in London. The only way to get home-style Mexican cooking there was to cook it himself. He hasn't stopped since. In fact, though he's still a young man, he's in constant demand as a cook and as a teacher. We recently met Juan Diego at his home on the shores of Lake Chapala in the Mexican state of Jalisco. I love the story about when you went away to London to go to school from the small village in Mexico. And was it one of your sisters that, for your going away present, hand wrote a cookbook of the family's recipes over the last, what, 50, 60 years?
Yeah, I would say longer than that, I guess. It's just like they have never been written before.
They were passed on from generation to
you know,
generation.
that's right. Yeah,
And
because
that book
they
is...
come from my grandmother to my mother, my sisters, and now my sisters' children.
And that book has served you very well, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it has.
Yeah.
It has.
In many ways, Diego, your food is the kind of food that is served every night in a lot of homes in the villages around this lake tonight. Is that true?
That is true.
Yeah.
But I think especially this particular dish that we're planning to prepare if we find the right stuff in the market. If not, I will just have to do something else. But
Yeah.
I've been thinking because of the season, because of the time of the year, we may be able to find very good chiles poblanos. So
Aha.
wonderful. And I want to prepare them in a way that they are prepared in the state of Michoacán. The recipe is my family's recipe. It's a version of a dish that's made in Michoacán.
Almost every day, Juan Diego goes to the market. That's the best way to be sure he always has the freshest ingredients. But also, he likes going to the market.
Marketplaces in Mexico are they're an important part of Mexican life, aren't they?
Yeah, everything revolves around the marketplace. It's like people, before going to the marketplace, they always go to church. You can see the ladies with their little baskets in church. They go to mass, early mass, like 6 o'clock in the morning.
And the baskets are empty.
The baskets are empty, of course.
Yeah.
And then they pray and they take the communion or whatever, and then they go.
What time will a market like this open, and what time will people start coming?
They open about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And by this time, the rush hour is always gone. People are already home eating or doing the other things around the house.
Juan Diego Michel and I found here all the ingredients needed for a wonderful dish called chilies in Macedonia. It's chilies stuffed with cheese served in a sauce. They're not hot chilies. They're fairly sweet chilies stuffed with a cheese called panela. The sauce is comprised of tomatoes, peaches, apples, and grapes. It's an exciting dish that you don't find in restaurants in this country, and certainly not in the United States and Europe. It's what we've come to Mexico to discover: regional, home-style Mexican cooking.
What are these chilies called, Diego? Did you say? I can't remember.
These chilies are poblanos.
Poblanos.
Yeah. And we're going to rub them with butter inside and out. This cheese is a farm cheese, but this is about a month old. Usually the people eat it when it's very fresh. But I like it when it's a little aged, like 3 or 4 weeks.
Does it gain in flavor?
Yeah,
as
it does.
ages?
Okay.
So this is a fine, fresh tomato sauce.
That's all.
The tomatoes were... Did you peel the tomatoes, Diego?
No,
Or
I
were they
didn't.
Pureed?
I cooked them in water, and I blend the whole thing with the water and everything. With onion, I had garlic and some whole peppercorns.
I'm intrigued by the herb that we found in the market today, which is...
Albahaca.
What's it called?
Albahaca.
Albahaca.
And it's Mexican basil,
It seems
which
to
is a
sort
little
of...
stronger.
Yes, it's stronger. It has a little flavor of bay leaf even.
Yes, that's right.
It's a lovely herb. That's a
wonderful.
very good sauce. Would you ever use any of the more exotic fruits, such as mango or papaya?
Mango, but not very ripe.
Not
It should
very
be kind of on the green side, because you have to use fruit that has some tartness in it.
So the sauce doesn't become too sweet.
Yeah, that's right. And peeled grapes, seedless grapes, we use this time.
How long should the fruit simmer, Diego? Do they become quite tender?
No, not quite tender, because you're going to put them in the oven. They should finish cooking in there. You see the colors? It's like almost like a Christmas tree.
That's certainly the farthest cry you could imagine from the sort of Mexican food we glimpse every day in the United States.
Oh, yes.
So that just gets 15 or 20 minutes in the oven. And it's
That's
done.
right. So I just want to let people know that there's more to Mexican food than just enchiladas.
The seemingly exotic and colorful foods of India are phenomenally popular in Britain and increasingly popular in the United States. No one has contributed more to the awareness of Indian cooking than, surprisingly, an actress, Madhur Jaffrey, who recently starred with Julie Christie in the film Heat and Dust.
Begum Sahaba welcomes you. She's very happy to meet this
angelic girl.
angelic girl.
Thank you. Mrs. Rivers is the wife of our assistant collector, and we are privileged indeed to have so charming a couple in our midst.
It was thrilling to see your son,
I always like to hear the Qatar national
You must
anthem.
be terribly proud of him. He's terrifically handsome.
That's a good.
He'd cause a sensation in any London drawing room.
कुछ नहीं माँ थोड़ा चक्कर आ गया
जोर से पैर दबाओ और सूंघने वाली दवाई लाना हमीदा भाग के लाओ और खिड़कियां खोलो गर्मी के मारे दम घुटा जा रहा है जल्दी से खोलो खिड़कियां
Though primarily an actress, Madhur Jaffrey is devoted to Indian cooking. She has written 2 books, An Introduction to Indian Cooking and a Vegetarian Cookbook, and teaches on television in several countries. We met Madhur Jaffrey not at her home in Delhi, but at her apartment in New York City.
Madhur, I think of you as the woman who made me love lima beans.
Oh, dear.
Which is no mean accomplishment. And it was such a revelation that the last time we worked together in the Napa Valley and did those marvelous vegetarian lunches. And vegetarian cooking, I guess, and those lunches, they seem so exemplary to me of what is unique about Indian cooking.
I think if you look throughout the world and try and find an haute cuisine of vegetarian food, you probably will find it in India.
In India.
In large quantities, maybe in Japan in small quantities. It's dying out, but in India you will find a lot of it. And one of the dishes that I'm going to make for you is something with yogurt. And people say, think of yogurt as a health food in this country, and then they glop it up with a lot of sugar. They put a lot of sugar, they put fruit and sugar inside yogurt, and they think that it's very healthful. But in India, we eat a lot of yogurt without the sugar.
And also, doesn't it have a purpose in the meal? Does it have a cooling quality, would you say?
Well, a lot of the dishes that you might eat could be hot in terms of spices. So then you have this cooling thing to contrast and balance, not very hot.
I think that's probably a misconception, though, that many people have about Indian cooking, that it is quite hot and quite spicy all of the time.
My father couldn't eat hot food, and there are many Indians who don't like hot food. Indian food is spicy, but not every spice is hot. Some spices are like fennel, anisey, you know, that wonderful...
breathy quality.
Yeah, breathy quality. And some spices like cumin have well, I don't even know how to describe cumin, but each spice has a specific quality which is not necessarily hot, not usually hot. There are very few hot spices, and people don't know this about Indian food, but our hot spices like the chili pepper, we didn't get from India, we got from the New World. It's yours. It's not ours at all. It was brought by the Portuguese in the 16th century.
Madhur, what kind of memories do you have as an adult now about your life in India as a child?
Well, unlike children over here that barely grew up with a mother and father, I grew up with 40 relatives, and that has its plus and minus sides. And we always ate our meals with my grandfather sitting at the head of the table, and then fat aunts and fat uncles slowly getting smaller and smaller, and cousins, and all of us at the other end of the dining table. And somehow my memories are mostly to do with food and meals.
Good.
There are a lot of dishes that we make with yogurt in India. And the simplest one, of course, is you just take yogurt and beat it up and put salt and pepper. That's the simplest way of serving it. But you can add things to it. You can add all kinds of vegetables, boiled potatoes that have been diced, chickpeas that have been boiled. What I'm going to do here is take zucchini. You don't have to peel it. You just wash it and grate it. Put salt on it. If you have 2 zucchini, medium-sized zucchini like this, you take about a teaspoon of salt. Put the salt over the zucchini and let it sit for about half an hour. And after it's sat for half an hour, you will find that a lot of liquid has accumulated, and you just pick up little clumps of zucchini and squeeze all the water out and put the zucchini on one side. Then you take some oil and you heat it in a skillet over medium heat, and you take onion. For 2 zucchini, you could use perhaps 1 medium-sized onion that you've cut into very fine slices. and you lightly saute the slices, and as soon as they've turned translucent, you put in this zucchini, saute that for just about a minute, and you take this whole thing out and let it cool. This is a sauteed mixture of onion and zucchini, which I have here. Then I will take some yogurt, about maybe 1.5 cups of plain yogurt, not sweetened, not flavored with anything, and you beat it up. The reason I do this now is that you can never get it smooth and creamy after you've added other things to it, like vegetables. Once I've done that, I can add anything to it. And in this particular case, I'm going to put in this mixture of zucchini and onion and just stir it in. And that's all there is to the dish. You can serve it this way, or you can put it in the refrigerator and serve it absolutely chilled. But room temperature is all right, and chilled is just as good. The wonderful, low-calorie, cooling salad type of dish that you can serve all by itself. You can have it for lunch all by itself, or you could serve it as part of a meal, as you would a salad.
Not to be outdone, the great chefs of France have played a leading role in the food revolution, especially Gaston Lenôtre. France's premier pastry chef, Gaston has led the way in pastry and dessert making, emphasizing the use of fruit in pastry and lighter desserts.
We met Gaston at his restaurant, Le Pré Catelan, a stunningly beautiful establishment in a park in Paris. Gaston was celebrating with a gathering of the great chefs of France. He has much to celebrate. He started in a small shop with his family in Deauville shortly after World War II. Now, he has retail outlets in the Far East, South America, Europe, and the United States.
We met with Gaston where he most often can be found, in his kitchen.
Spécialité à base de faux, meringues aux amandes, très moelleux et d'une mousse chocolat. Dites-moi une chose, Gaston, qu'est-ce qui vous a attiré à faire la
Gaston, what urged you on to find pastry making?
It was my parents, because of my parents. My mother was a pastry chef in a fine shop on the outskirts of Paris. And my father, he was head pastry chef at the Grand Hotel. My father's name was Gaston. My mother's was Eleanor, which is why now we have so many specialties with these names, which recall happy memories of my parents.
So in the beginning, it was thanks to your parents.
Yes, and when I started in my profession when I was 13, it was just during the Depression in 1933, when the economic life of France was in a poor state, and it was necessary to start in learning a trade where you had the possibility of room and board. We couldn't afford to go to college, so I embarked on my apprenticeship in pastry, and how fortunate I was to have an excellent master chef to guide me, my father, of course.
So it really became the family profession.
Absolutely. But my parents didn't require it of me, you see. I was born in Normandy because by 1918, my parents had left Paris. There was no work in the city, no chance to make pastry or to cook during the First World War. Now you prepare the little leaves, and then all you have to do is mold the decoration to the surface of the cake, right? Happy Mother's Day.
And the cake down below there, what is it?
Well, the cake just there is called a Casino, which is made of a Bavarian cream. Next is the Opera, which is a cake with coffee and chocolate with very thin slices of Genoa cake made with almonds and hazelnuts and soaked with very darkly roasted coffee. And in between the layers are a layer of coffee mousse and then a layer of chocolate truffle mixture with bitter chocolate, you see. Then we have a fruit cake, one of our specialties where the fruit is evenly distributed and doesn't sink to the bottom. Now, to accomplish that, we have a trick, which is you must absolutely prepare the cake batter 2 days in advance and leave it in the pan and in the refrigerator for 2 days. All these products which we've perfected are well within the reach of people baking at home, whether we speak of the Casino or the Opera, fruitcake or Kugloff or this lemon mousse. All these are products which are ideal for freezing. My personal conception of French pastry making, desserts, cakes, pastries, is that they're for the consummation of a good meal, celebrations, the great occasions in life. The evolution of new-style French pastry making has kept pace with and developed along the same lines as the new-style French cooking. This style of light dessert work, the Casino, for example, it just wasn't done. This lemon cake, fruit wasn't used except in ice cream and tarts before World War II. Now we use fruit in many desserts, and in so doing have given fruit a new purpose, just as the new style French cooking is done with vegetables. To our health, to the health of French cooking and French pastry. Thank you. Thank you. It's at this hour at noon and early in the evening that champagne tastes the best.
While at his house in the country, I was happy to learn that Gaston, in spite of his tremendous success, is a man of simple pleasures.
After the war, in 1940 actually, and all during the occupation, you know there wasn't a great deal of food.
And of course you had to eat.
So it was worthwhile to know how to fish, and hunting was helpful too.
Formidable. C'est la vraie truite à la française. OK.
Alors.
Et le broche.
Regarde, tu vois.
Fish, meat, vegetables, fruit. The raw materials available to us change with the seasons. And it is how those raw materials are handled that is the determining factor. The people you have met are the artists, architects, inventors and craftsmen of good cooking. We've enjoyed being with you.
And hope that you will join us again as we visit other great chefs of the world.
This is Michael James.
And Billy Cross.
Cheers.
Cheers.